On a quiet evening at a bustling city plaza, a routine errand transformed into a tense confrontation. A black woman, armed with nothing but discipline and dignity, found herself face-to-face with a police officer whose actions spiraled out of control. In a world where appearances often overshadow actions, who would emerge with their integrity intact? But before we dive in, leave a comment below and let us know where you're watching from today. And if this story speaks to you, hit that subscribe button for more powerful narratives. The crisp night air carried a faint tension as Ava Monroe closed the trunk of her car in the crowded lot of Brookfield Plaza in Houston. The rhythmic beeping of car alarms and the murmured conversations of shoppers created a white noise that filled the space. Yet, despite the normalcy, an uneasy feeling lingered. Ava, a 38-year-old martial arts instructor, had learned to stay alert. As a black woman who had spent her life navigating a world that often judged her by her skin before her character, she understood the silent weight of prejudice. Tonight was no different. She adjusted her bag over her shoulder, her sharp eyes scanning the lot, not out of fear but habit. Across the way, Officer Brian Calloway stepped out of his cruiser. The harsh glare of the patrol car's headlights cast him in stark relief, framing him like an actor stepping onto a stage. Tall and broad, Calloway carried himself with the authority of a man who expected immediate obedience. Known for his rigid, zero-tolerance approach, he frequently towed the line between strict enforcement and outright abuse of power. His gaze locked onto Ava, his jaw tightening. There was no reason for it, just a parked car, a calm woman, and a situation that should have gone unnoticed. But Calloway didn't move on. Instead, he adjusted his belt and started toward her with deliberate steps. Ava sensed his presence before she heard his voice. The shuffle of boots on asphalt made her turn slightly, her posture instinctively poised. Calloway barked, his voice slicing through the air. "Come here." Ava froze for a beat, caught between compliance and confusion. "Excuse me," she asked, her voice even but firm. "License and registration," he demanded, closing the distance between them. She blinked, her brow furrowing. "I'm not driving, officer. My car's parked. Is there a problem?" Calloway's lips pressed into a thin line. "Do as you're told. License and registration." Now, the tension in his voice, the hard edge in his stare, it wasn't about procedure. It was personal. The unease that had hung in the air now crystallized into something sharper. Ava's pulse quickened, but outwardly, she remained calm. Years of martial arts training had taught her control, and she would need every ounce of it now. With steady hands, she handed over her license, her movements deliberate to avoid escalation. Calloway snatched it without a word, his eyes narrowing as he examined it. "You people always have an excuse," he muttered under his breath, though it was loud enough for Ava to hear. Her chest tightened at the familiar phrase. "You people." It wasn't new, but never hurt any less. She straightened her shoulders. "Officer, I'm not sure what I've done to warrant this," she said evenly, her tone respectful but resolute. Calloway waved her words away like an annoying fly. "Step away from the car. I'm searching it." "On what grounds?" Ava asked, disbelief creeping into her voice. "There's no reason for." "Did I ask for your opinion?" Calloway interrupted, his tone sharp enough to draw the attention of nearby shoppers. A few paused, their heads turning toward the escalating exchange. Ava glanced around, noting the gathering eyes and the faint glint of phones being raised. The weight of the moment pressed down on her, but she refused to let it show. "Officer," she said calmly, "I've complied with your requests. I just want to understand why this is happening." "You're resisting," Calloway snapped, stepping closer. His towering frame loomed over her, his hand hovering near his baton. Murmurs spread through the crowd. "That's not right," someone called out. Ava heard it, but stayed focused on Calloway, who now reached out and grabbed her arm. "You're under arrest," he declared, yanking her forward. The contact ignited a spark within her. "Let go of me," she said, her voice firm but not raised. "I said you're under arrest." Calloway barked, his grip tightening. A flash of anger burned in her chest, but Ava forced herself to breathe. Stay calm. Assess. Control. The mantra was second nature, ingrained in her through decades of training. But when Calloway raised his baton, she knew she had to act. The baton sliced through the air, but Ava moved with the precision of someone who had trained for this moment her entire life. She sidestepped the blow with effortless grace, her hands steady and open. "Officer, stop," she said, her voice calm, yet commanding. "You're making a mistake." But Calloway wasn't listening. Embarrassed by the growing crowd and fueled by his own anger, he swung again, this time aiming for her midsection. Ava deflected the strike with a calculated block. The crowd let out an audible gasp as the baton clattered to the ground. "Don't escalate this," she warned, her voice firm yet measured. Calloway's face turned crimson as he lunged at her, hands outstretched in a reckless attempt to grab her. But Ava's years of training took over. She sidestepped his grasp, delivering a swift, precise kick to his legs. Calloway stumbled, falling to his knees, his pride more wounded than his body. "You're out of line," she said, her voice cutting through the tension. The crowd erupted in cheers. Their phones captured every moment. Calloway, in a final act of desperation, made one last attempt to grab her, but Ava, with flawless control, executed a maneuver that pinned him to the ground. Her movements were deliberate, effective enough to neutralize the threat, but not cause unnecessary harm. "Stay down," she said, her voice low but resolute. "This ends now." The footage spread like wildfire, igniting outrage across social media under hashtags like #JusticeForAva and #AccountabilityMatters. The video sparked a national conversation about police misconduct and racial bias. Encouraged by the overwhelming support, Ava decided to take action. With the help of a civil rights attorney, she filed a formal complaint against Officer Calloway, determined to turn her experience into a catalyst for change. In court, Ava stood tall, her presence commanding respect. The evidence was irrefutable. The video showcasing her restraint and composure against Calloway's unchecked aggression. The judge ruled in her favor, ordering Calloway to undergo extensive retraining and issuing a public apology from the police department. For Ava, the victory was bittersweet. "This isn't just about me," she told reporters outside the courthouse. "It's about standing up against a system that too often ignores voices like mine." Her story became a symbol of resilience and justice, inspiring others to speak out against injustice. Ava returned to her quiet life, but the impact of her stand rippled far beyond her community, reminding everyone that dignity and discipline could turn the tide against even the deepest prejudice. If you found this story powerful, leave a comment below and let us know your thoughts. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more stories that inspire and ignite change.